Welcome back, everyone. Amanda Poitras here from Strength Counseling Services, and this is the video feed of Health Hangouts with Amanda. And we're doing this to spread strength, hope, and love for those who aren't asking for help out there and are really struggling depression-wise, anxiety-wise. You know, the kids are home. I mean, you name it, the whole world is struggling. So we want to be able to reach out and say, hey, like, we're here. And all the people that are in this video cast, like, we're all here doing the same thing, and we have ideas of what you can do, and we want to share those with you. So today we have Kim Siever here with us, and Kim and I go way, way back, and I'm just honored that that Kim was willing to give us the time today. Kim is known as a writer, and he's had some publicity lately, and has a YouTube channel and a Facebook page, and so just really grateful for your time today, Kim. And yeah, I'm just curious to have a chat with you about how this is affecting you, what your thoughts are on the whole thing, and what you're doing to support yourself, your family, and your community. So welcome.
Thanks, Amanda. I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to our discussion.
Great, great. So can you tell our viewers a bit about what you do? And yeah, and they'll have questions along the way.
Sure, yeah. So I guess to sum it up, the thing that probably describes me the best is I'm a writer. I'm working on a couple of books at the moment. I just completed a manuscript on one, but it's in the review process, and the other one is in the research process. I also blog regularly on politics and social issues, and I also manage social media and do copywriting for commercial clients as well. So that's pretty much me and what I do. I've been working from home full time for the last 7 years or so. So COVID-19 hasn't really affected me in that regard, although I did end up losing some clients because of it, because they had to shut down their operations, and so they didn't have enough revenue to keep my contract running. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like after COVID-19 has passed and everybody's fine and has emerged from their cocoons. Hopefully those clients will still be there, but I guess we'll find out in the meantime. So, but I have some other clients who don't really depend on, you know, in store business in order to generate revenue, and so I'm able to still take care of my family somewhat. I guess we'll see how things look in the next few months.
Well, I would love to buy a copy of your, well, whatever you produce, but your first book, and I would just be honored if you'd sign it for me.
Sure. Yeah, my first book's on debunking myths of capitalism.
Wicked.
And the other book I'm writing on is on the labor history of Lethbridge.
Excellent. Yeah.
Sure.
So so that's Lethbridge, Alberta in Canada, for those of you who are not familiar with little old Lethbridge. That was my hometown. I was there for 25 years, and then about was it 7 years ago or so, I moved out to Vancouver Island. I was in Victoria for a little while, and I now live in well, I was in Nanaimo for a while. I was in Duncan for a while, so I'm kind of like all over the place. But yeah, really loving the island. Thought about coming home in the first few years quite a few times, but this is now home, and I go and visit in Lethbridge, you know, once a year or so, and try and connect with old friends and stuff. So Lethbridge has a special place in my heart for sure.
We went the opposite direction. We moved here from Vancouver about 22 years ago.
Yeah.
Mary grew up, my spouse, she grew up in the Vancouver area, and then I moved there when I was 16 with my parents and lived there for about 9 years. So yeah, we've been here 22 years now.
Wonderful. So yeah, this is just kind of an open forum to chat about, you know, how things are going on, things are being handled with your family, or how support is happening there. I know you have quite a handful of children in your midst, and so yeah, so curious about how your family's doing.
They're doing all right. Our oldest is 21, living on their own, been on their own for a couple of years. Our second oldest is 19, getting ready to possibly go on a mission for our church. I'm not sure how that's going to work at this point, but we're taking it day by day. Our next is 14 years old, just entered their first year of high school this year, had been homeschooling for all their school year except for this year, but now back home, schooling from home with all this going on. Our next child's finished up their last year of elementary school, going into middle school next year. Is 11 years old. Our next will be 8 later on this month. And our last one is going to be 5 in June. So
Wow.
they're all doing all right, I think. Our 2 oldest have been affected by COVID-19, both lost their jobs, but they managed to get onto EI, so they're managing things fine. Our oldest lives with 3 other roommates, so their expenses aren't too high, so they're managing okay. They have money set aside to take care of their finances for the next few months, so things are going all right. And our second oldest still lives at home, so it has very few expenses. So yeah, but other than that, Mary's schooling is finishing up. She's working on her master's degree. She's about to finish her first year, which is entirely a coursework. Her last day of classes was last week, and she just submitted a paper yesterday. Has 1 final paper to work on that's due later on this month, and then she'll be done her first year. But it was a bit of a upset when the university shut down and everything had to move off or online, off campus. But she managed to work through it and has been able to do all right. She's also TAing for an undergraduate class, so that's been kind of tricky since she isn't able to go to class to see how things are going and touch base with the students or have our office hours, that sort of thing. But she's managing all right. And then I've talked a little bit about me and how things are going for me. So yeah, that's pretty much how our family's doing. We're getting to know each other a lot more. Our 2 older children are the ones who are still at home. The 2 older ones are quite social and like to hang out with their friends. And so they haven't been able to do that much, but they also are pretty adept at hanging out online. So that's what they're doing a lot of lately.
So one thing I want to just point out that I'm really moved by is the use of they them pronouns that I've heard you describe your children as. And I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, but I bring that up because there could be a lot of viewers here on this stream that have faced challenges in the world of this nature, where there's gender fluidity, or I mean, you name it, right? Like lots of issues in terms of coming out into their truth and whatever that looks like for them, and lots of challenges socially and whatnot. So I just noticed that you are using those pronouns instead of he, she, and I just wanted to point that out and say I'm moved by that because I really believe in inclusivity. And I don't know if you want to comment on that or not, but I just wanted to say I noticed that.
Sure. Yeah, we have half of our children, which sounds bigger than it is, but 3 of our children are non-binary trans, and that means that they don't identify as male or female, that it's somewhere in between. And yeah, so they all 3 of them use they them pronouns as identifiers to make it easier for themselves. It leads to less gender dysphoria by using they them pronouns. Our middle child's actually going through the process of a name change, and Alberta allows changing gender identifiers on legal documents, so we're also in the process of doing that too. Yeah.
And this is something that I've been really moved by over all the years that I've known you and Mary, and your family, as how supportive the 2 of you have been as parents, and that's just from my heart to yours. I've always really witnessed that, and it's a beautiful thing, because despite the challenges that other people might have with this desire or need for us to be identified in a certain way, that is not really concerning to me. What's concerning to me is that they put themselves in the forefront, as opposed to being open to changing the pronouns and addressing people as they need to be addressed, as they find in their truth. And so I've always, you know, witnessed you as being a very supportive parent in that way, and it's impressive. It's really something that's moved me for years. So thank you for sharing that. I know it is personal, but I do appreciate you talking about it.
Well, I appreciate that. It's comforting to hear that. I think that it's important that children, especially as teenagers and preteens, when they're very impressionable and have a lot of all those hormones running through their body, it's affecting their emotions and their self concepts and their self awareness. That home can be a place that's supportive and welcoming and encouraging, and being supportive in the sense of, you know, acknowledging and accepting and embracing self-identifiers such as name and gender and pronouns. That can be a source of strength and can go a long ways. Having queer children means that I've heard stories that they shared with me about friends of theirs who don't have that same sort of support system. And it can be difficult for people in those situations, that they feel unloved, they feel attacked, they feel hidden, they feel that they can't come out to their parents or loved ones, and it can be distancing, and having, you know, a distant relationship like that can be detrimental for somebody in an impressionable situation like teenagers are.
Very much so. And then I'm thinking about the viewers here, you know, anyone who is watching who is saying, wow, I get what he's saying and I really understand. And part of, and I'm careful to, and you just tell me if this is not a question you want to answer, but part of some kids being in these, you know, families or communities that are not supportive of these things. I know that religion can play a great factor in that. And what's beautiful about you is that you are part of a religion, and you have been for a very long time, as far as I know. And yet you are able to still find what appears to be a balance between being very loving and accepting of whatever your children show up with, and honoring your faith. And you said, you know, even one of your children perhaps might go on a mission for the church. So I'm just curious if you're willing to speak about that at all.
Sure. So I'm not sure balance would be the right word. To me, balance implies that there's no sense of friction, that there's an equilibrium, and I am not convinced that there's equilibrium between my political and social beliefs and my religious beliefs. And maybe I'm not even sure I would go so far as to say my religious beliefs, but my religious traditions, I suppose. Because I think sometimes my religious beliefs and my religious traditions have conflict. And so it's been tricky, and it's been a few years that I've been experiencing this friction. And so, yeah, I try to have one foot in my religious life and one foot in my political social life. And it can be tricky sometimes. And I feel often that I'm an imposter in both. You know, I have that imposter system where I don't feel I'm being a good enough Mormon, or I don't feel I'm being a good enough political advocate by trying to have an allegiance to both areas of my life. So it can be challenging.
Yeah, and I hear that most certainly. And you know, I want our viewers to know that it is possible to be in our truth, despite possibly being surrounded by views that we may embrace, but that may not be totally our own also. And that's probably the best way I can say that.
Sure, yeah, it's possible, but I think people should also be aware that it can be challenging, and for some people it might be too much. That the burden might be too overwhelming, too heavy to bear. That's something I've been able to shoulder, and at times not very well. But for some people, it might be too overwhelming, and so it is possible, but maybe not for everybody.
Well, it's certainly impressive what you've done for your family and your children and for yourself, and what I've witnessed on social media and things like that. And it's really great to connect with you again, because last time I saw you was a couple of years ago, and you were in a crowd and I was in a different crowd, and you didn't see me. But it's been a lot of years since I've seen you, and I just love, like, this is part of my therapy, is being able to connect with people that I feel inspired by in different ways, and people that I love and that I miss. And so it's really wonderful, because I have been inspired by some of the things that I've seen you post on your channel. And so, and I just like called you up one day and was like, hey, I just saw this video, do you want to do a video with us? And graciously you were like, sure, like, no problem. So I'm really grateful for that, Kim. I'm curious, just from your, perhaps, your political view, whatever you're willing to talk about here, but what you think about what's happening in the world.
Yeah, so I'm pretty left-leaning when it comes to politics, and so I see things from that political lens. I don't see COVID-19 as being political inherently, but I think politics has played a huge role in our response as a society to it. And I've written about this in the last few weeks a few times. But I honestly believe that our desire for balanced budgets and low taxes and investing in businesses has threatened our ability to respond to health pandemics in a realistic and efficient way. Because we're so focused on these things like low taxes and balanced budgets, we've only been maintaining status quo for our healthcare systems instead of investing in them and boosting up the services we can provide, so that when it comes down to having to deal with pandemics, we have everything in place rather than trying to scramble at the last minute or trying to take away cancer treatments or heart surgery or obstetricians and using them into pandemic responses. It doesn't make sense that we should do that, but we should threaten the healthcare of non-COVID-19 patients so that we can deal with COVID-19 patients. We should have a robust enough healthcare system that we can deal with that. And that's just from the healthcare side of it, but as well from a more socioeconomic side of it. If we had systems in place to take care of our citizens financially, then when half the businesses go out of business, even if it's just temporarily, it's not going to cause the economy to destruct, and it's not going to lead to people being homeless and with no way of being able to pay the bills. For example, if we had a universal basic income of even just like $2,000 a month per person, it would go a long ways for us to be able to not have to worry about how we're going to pay our rent or how we're going to be able to afford our food. And if we had systems in place for people to be able to make sure they can save money rather than not making enough money at work each time, that they can save money and be able to, put money aside for a rainy day when something like this could happen. We just don't have those systems in place because we're so focused again on balancing budgets and low taxes and providing perks to corporations in order to hopefully see them create new jobs. And it just seems to me that we have everything backwards, and as a result, we're seeing everything fail now. We're seeing our healthcare systems fail. We're seeing businesses and then subsequently jobs failing. We see people becoming homeless. And it's just because we haven't been taking care of our society.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder, there's been suspect that this is going to go on for months and months, into the summer. And I mean, I have no idea, but I just hear what everybody else hears. And I just wonder for you, how you think this might unfold, like even a month from now or 2 months from now, or by August, what do you think this is going to look like based on what you've just said?
If we just keep doing what we're doing now, I don't think things are going to improve. It seems like vaccine is still months away. I've heard next year, but then I've recently heard as soon as the autumn. But even so, it's going to take some time for the vaccine to get distributed, and then for enough people to get it, for the cases to start falling. So I think we're still months away from seeing any real relief. And unless we start changing how we do things, I don't think there's going to be much improvement. And there's emergency funding coming right now, but that's all temporary. Mm-hmm. And not everybody could qualify for it. Up until yesterday, I believe, someone like me didn't qualify, where if you lose, you have to lose all of your income. And whereas I lost most of my income, mm-hmm. I still had the occasional single project here and there that I would do work for, but no ongoing work. Certainly not as much money as I was making before, but because I was making some money, as little as it was, I wouldn't qualify for the emergency aid. And there were plenty of other people like that as well, where they might be working 3 jobs and lose 2 of them, but they still have 1 job, but they still have the same number of bills to pay. Mm-hmm. And so while that emergency aid is useful, I don't think it's sustainable. And if we're still months out, we're going to have to find a different solution. Like I think it's only 3 or 4 months that this is good for, but I don't think this is going to last for only 3 or 4 months. I think it's going to be a lot longer than that. We haven't even plateaued yet. We haven't peaked. In Canada, our cases are still rising. So who knows when we're going to peak? And then when we peak, it's still going to, however long it took to peak, it's probably going to take the same amount of time to go back down. So we're months into this. Mm-hmm. And I honestly think that it wouldn't take much to be able to make some changes. We're already creating this $2,000 a month per person emergency aid. If we just extend that to everybody and then just make it permanent, you have your universal basic income. And mm-hmm. no one would have to apply for it. Everybody would just get it. You can make the system more efficient because we wouldn't have to worry about other things like healthcare premiums or welfare programs or anything else like that, because you would be able to have some of those things already in place. Plus, it would free up. People could go to school and take whatever education they want rather than just getting a degree in the best paying field. People wouldn't necessarily have to go get a job. They can just do something that they like doing that doesn't pay well. But that brings them satisfaction, and they can have better quality of life. And we could spend more time on recreation or whatever, go hunting or watching hockey games or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah. And the hard part too, for me, and so I'll relate to you in that I had so I own 2 businesses, and we had a brick and mortar business. It was a cycling studio in Nanaimo, and we had to close the doors on March 13th and lay everybody off. And that's been really tough. And we're going to have to move buildings now. Like when we can open again, we have no idea when that will be. We'll be in another location. And it's just been very, very challenging that way. And then for this business, despite it being an online counseling service, everybody on the team, everybody's income dropped, including mine, so it's the same thing. So we were, we make our paychecks, and some of us, and I say, I'm not just talking about the team here, but like human beings, a lot of us live paycheck to paycheck, right? And we do our best with, but the cost of things continue to rise. And then the banks say, okay, we'll help you out by deferring mortgages. well, it's like, okay, so you're going to defer it and add it on to the end of my mortgage. You're still going to make your money, and I'm not making any money right now. Like, I'm in the same boat as so many people right now. Like, I have a mortgage to pay also. And so even with the deferral, I'm still paying that interest. I'm still having to add on to the end of my term. And I'm making, you know, 1/3 the income I was making 2 months ago, or last month, or whatever. And so it's really challenging, and it's really scary too. So I can speak from personal experience that I know this is scary. And if something happens, like an emergency of some kind, will I, you know, I can maybe, if for those of you who have savings, like, that's great. But for those of you who don't, like, this is really scary, right? And I understand that. So the whole deferral piece is like, we're doing you a favor, but actually you're not. So this is part of the problem. And I don't qualify for that $2,000 a month either, because I haven't lost all my income. And in fact, everyone on my team, they haven't lost all their income, but from what we were making to 1/3 of that or less, it's like, well, can't pay our bills, you know? So trying to defer car payments, or like, this is such a huge problem. And I was saying, you know, for whatever my opinion is worth, I don't know, but to whoever's listening, but it's like, if we just lived in a world where nobody charged anything and nobody made anything for the duration of this period of time, like, that would be excellent. You know, like, everybody stops profiting. But what I'm seeing is, like, these big banks and these big, like, you know, for the mall, or if you call it a mall, or the shopping center, this big outdoor shopping center, with a bunch of businesses, like, everyone has to pay rent still. And even if we get a deferral, we still are responsible for that. So they're still making money, these big corporations with deep pockets, and they're allowed to do that. And this is, so I get, you know, riled up about this, because we can't. So it's like, why can they also? And so I'm not even speaking so much about the government, but it's the government that can say, yes, you can do this. No, you can't do this. I appreciate they're saying you can't evict people if they can't pay their rent, but it's just like, okay, well, even landlords have the power to say, well, I'll give you a bit of a discount, but next month you're going to have to pay that money that you couldn't pay this month. And it's like, no one's going to make any money for months and months. We don't even know how long. And so this is, it's really, really hard. So yes, like, there's this emergency fund, and for those who are getting it, for those who are getting EI, like, I'm really grateful for them to have that. But even $2,000 a month, if I can be so bold here, it's like, how much is rent? How much is rent for you know, a family home? Like, you know, obviously it's different, say, in Lethbridge versus Vancouver, but rent is so expensive in some parts of Canada, parts of the world. It's like $2,000 isn't even going to cover a family home rental. Like, and then food and all this stuff. So people are like, I heard, and don't quote me on this because I don't know for sure, but I heard that the searches on Google, like, how to work from home or working from home ideas, went up 400% in the last week. Like, people are desperate and they're suffering. And so, yeah, the government's like stepping up, but, and it's a lot. I know, like, these numbers are huge of the money that they're going to be doling out, but it's not enough, like what you were saying.
Yeah, it should be universal. I think everybody should get it, and it should be permanent. It should be a permanent thing. And right now, like, I have enough money in my bank account to pay all our bills and stuff, but I'm leery about using it for anything, because I don't know what things are going to be like next month or the month after. And so while I'm not running a negative balance in my bank account, not by any stretch, I'm leery about spending any money, because I don't know what it's going to be like next month. Maybe I'm not be in the same financial position next month, and I might need that money to buy groceries. But yeah, I totally agree. And even the solutions for businesses, you know, 75% money to be able to provide 75% of your employees, or providing loans, like, those loans, you're just going to go into more debt. You know, you can't, and I've seen banks offering that for workers. You know, if you're having trouble making ends meet, come talk to us. We'll try and set you up. It's like, well, I don't need to go into more debt right now. I don't have any money. Like, that's going to not make things
And I have
easier
no
for me.
way of paying
Yeah,
that back. So,
exactly.
you know, for how hard it is to begin with to get out of debt, you know, like a student loan, it took me years and years to pay off my student loan while I tried to build this business and work. Like you know, I'm the kind of person that was working 3 jobs, like cleaning houses and like trying to make ends meet and doing the paycheck to paycheck thing. And I'm more fortunate today financially than I ever have been.
Mhm.
However, it is scary because I don't know what next month looks like. You know, I have a certain amount, this number in the bank account. I'm going, okay, that number supports my staff and myself, but what's next month going to look like? Like how, you know, and I'm thinking like, do I need to cut paychecks for the staff that, you know, get the same pay every month for the things they do here? Or and I obviously I don't want to do that. And so I haven't done that yet, and I don't want to, but it's like, what do we do? So this is, you know, this video, you know, podcast, whatever you want to call it, is really about spreading like strength, hope, and love. And I know this is a hard conversation to hear. It can be, because it's like, well, how am I going to make it, right? And so from a government like standpoint, like I don't know how to ask this question other than saying like, do you have any advice for people who are faced with this when, I mean, we're just the little guys here? Like, can we petition in some way to have, you know, like there's only so much that we can do, which is, as like me, like what can I do by myself? Like we have strength in numbers and things, and I'm not promoting like a riot or anything like that. I'm not promoting, you know, but I do appreciate activism also. And so yeah, any thoughts about what people can be doing to help in this regard when they are struggling? Because on top of the financial issues, we have all the other things that we're dealing with. There's people who have brand new babies. There's depression. There's addiction. There's family violence, other marital conflict. There's, you know, people with disabilities or families that have children with disabilities, right? And that's just like the tip of the iceberg. There are so many things that we could talk about here that people are now dealing with in conjunction with now not being able to pay their bills. So yeah, any thoughts there that we can like spread some kind of support and ideas?
Yeah, that's challenging. You know, for some people, going to school or going to work was relief from problems they had at home, and now they're being told that they have to stay home all day, every day, and those problems haven't disappeared, and now they're having to deal with them all the time. And my heart goes out to people in those situations. I can't imagine how difficult it must be for them. And I'm worried, I'm legitimately worried about what could be the outcome on the mental health of people in those situations. Because I imagine that a lot of them are probably having to suffer in silence and don't have the ability to talk to people like you and be able to work out through the issues that they're having to deal with. And it can be really easy for those of us who aren't necessarily dealing with those sorts of things, but who still have our own issues, to feel powerless. Because like if we lose our job, there's not a whole lot we can do to bring our job back. If the business we work for is closed down, they're closed down and they're not going to be opening up, then there's not a lot you could do. And the last I heard, there was 1.5 million people who had filed EI applications. It's a lot of people out of work, which means there are a lot of jobs that have disappeared. And so even if you tried finding another job, good luck. There's so many people out there who are also looking for work. And so it's just so easy to feel powerless, and it's so easy to feel like your politicians aren't listening to you. Like I could tell people, encourage people to write to their elected representatives, you know, talk to your MLA if you live in Canada, your MP. If you live in the United States, you know, talk to your state representatives, write to your governor or your congressperson. But even then it might feel like it's pointless. It might feel like they're not going to listen. There are some politicians who are so ideological, and it doesn't matter what you say or how you say it or how loud you say it. They're just gonna, you just feel like they're gonna ignore you. And then on top of that, we're told to self-isolate, so we can't join together in actions of solidarity to, you know, petition our political leaders in vocal ways, not just in literal petitions, but in direct actions. And so that can be really frustrating. I guess one thing you could do is try to reach out to others through virtual means, through systems like we're using right now, or through different messenger apps or other video conferencing apps, and trying to find opportunity to reach out to others. I know last month, well, every month I attend an open mic night for poets here in Lethbridge. And last month we had a virtual session. So we all hopped onto Zoom. I think there were 8 or 9 of us, and we each read poetry to one another. And it was kind of cool to be able to do that, and be able to have that social interaction. And so that's definitely something I think people should try to do, is to find ways to interact with others socially online, because we can't really do it any other way. But as well to use those same tools to try to do some activism, trying to reach out to your elected representatives and express things, trying to organize virtual petitioning, you know, maybe some letter writing campaigns, or getting together and talking about the issues and discussing what possible solutions there might be, and then recommending those solutions to your elected representatives. Really, whatever ends up being the things that you can do are going to have to be done virtually, because we can't meet in this. That can be challenging in itself as well.
Right. Have you heard of, I'm going to check here, but I think it's called change.org.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Yeah. And so change.org is it's called the world's platform for change, and it's full of petitions of things that you can sign to support. And so it's something that I've used a couple times, and it's people saying, like, these are the things that we need. And so I would encourage, you know, in addition to what you're saying about connect with your MLA, or, you know, write a letter, even if you feel like it might not be heard, if we get enough people saying the same thing, could be really valuable, possibly. So change.org, if you want to go on there, you can create your own and pass it around, you know, or you can sign ones that are already on there. But that's something that I've been really interested in doing. And just, I know it's just one name, but one name when everybody's doing it is a lot of names. And this is the argument about voting. A lot of people don't vote, right? They say, oh, well, it's just like, you know, just the one vote, but your vote matters. And I think that's really important. So change.org, you can go and check it out. Kim, I don't know if you have any thoughts about that at all. Oh, it looks like we're frozen here. Oh, Kim? So I'm just going to hang out until he comes back. And yeah, so for me, I have signed a few petitions that I found on change.org, and I actually created one with my business partner, and we were doing some work with that. But there he is. He's back.
There we go.
There you go. Hi, Kim. I was just saying that I'm really in support of what this website is trying to do, and just wondered if you had any, I don't know when you lost me, but if you have any thoughts about this platform.
Yeah, you were just in the middle of explaining change.org. So I don't think we lost too much. Yeah, I've heard of it. I've seen people use it. I don't know how effective it is as far as legitimacy in the eyes of political leaders. But yeah, it's certainly a popular platform, and I've known of people who've used it to try to affect change.
Wonderful. Yeah, so although we are faced with things that are out of our control, you know, a big message that's been coming out in all of these videos so far is, you know, the question of what are we in control of? And there are a lot of things that we can be doing. Um, you know, hopefully we'll be heard in what we're doing, but in terms of our smaller systems, like our families, you know, supporting our mental health and doing different things and things that that create joy, I think are really important. I also have seen, you know, many companies all around the world that are stepping up and offering free services or discounted services. I've also witnessed companies in the world that are asking for donations, like $1 billion companies asking for donations. And so I have some thoughts about that that aren't so favorable for those companies, but the ones that are offering free services, like, check it out, do your research, you know, go and see what's available, because there are a lot of people stepping up, and not just companies, but individuals also are trying to help. Like, you know, our world is our population is, there's a lot of people here. But, you know, at the end of the day, there are many people who are stepping up and trying to create change here in a positive way that's supportive for those who are struggling. So my greatest concern as a clinician that I come forward with is for those people who are not doing anything, they're not saying anything, and they're hiding. And they're hiding for various reasons. And I want you to know, like, I get it, because I've done it. And, you know, there are nights where I cry my eyes out for various reasons. And I'm going to ask you to do something different. And if that means just like watching this video and like checking out the website, like, I don't care what it is, do something different that's supportive of health, because you will start to manifest more positive things, and you will find avenues to access the support that you might need. Whereas if you're not doing anything, you may not ever find that. You know, Kim, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's really good advice. It can be really difficult for people right now, especially when it's been dragging on now for several weeks, and we have potentially months still ahead of us to have to be stuck in the same environment with the same people over and over and over again. It can be really challenging mentally, emotionally. And so, yeah, finding different things to do could really make a difference for some people. And not just things to do for your own personal self, but as well, if you have a family that's living in your home, or perhaps you might have roommates or whatever, to be able to find stuff to do together too. And I like the idea of doing something different, because it has that exploratory component to it. You know, I think there's something uniting about exploring things together for the first time, you know, trying a new game, or maybe watching a new movie or a new TV show, or learning about some new thing. I think there's some value in being able to explore those things together with somebody, have somebody to share in that curiosity and that excitement that always comes with finding out something new.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is just, you know, again, an invitation to come forward. And if you don't know what to do, you can just, you know, reach out and send an email and say, this is what I'm dealing with. Do you have some guidance, right? Ask questions, because I can't tell you the number of questions I have asked in my life. And I needed to ask those questions. And if somebody didn't have the answer, then I would ask somebody else, or they would help me find the answer. And I am where I am today because I've asked questions, and instead of getting stuck in my ego or any arrogance of like, oh, I got it figured out, or I don't got it figured out and I don't care, or just like giving up. I know that when I was stuck in my ego and thought I had it all figured out, I was sick in addiction. I struggled with an eating disorder for a lot of years, and everybody knew, it was just, you look at me and you knew I was sick, Everybody knew that. So it took me a long time to get to a place where I could say, you know what, like there has to be some humility here for me to get well. And so this message is for everybody that is not interested in doing something different. You're really rigid in whatever you're doing. I encourage you to approach this change in the world with an open mind. And the truth is it is an opportunity for something that we've never known before. And for me, you know, working the kind of person who works 3 jobs to try to get ahead a little bit, and then finally get ahead a little bit, and then I still work a lot of hours. This is a break for me. Like I'm resting now. And does that mean like I am okay with not being able to make the money that I might need? Not really, but I don't have a choice. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to do the best I can with what I have in front of me. But I am also attempting to be creative in what's available to me. It's unreal how creative we are as a species. we're incredible, but we're also we can be really lazy also, and we can and when we're in depression, that's not laziness, like that's illness, and we can become very ill. Like I heard, again, don't quote me here because I hear a lot of things, but I heard that liquor sales like went up something like 45% in 2 weeks or something than what the national average was before. And so that tells me, and whether that's true or not, I imagine that it's, you know, somewhat maybe accurate, I don't know, but that tells me there's a lot of people out there who are drunk right now, if I can say that so clearly. You know, like there are a lot of people who are struggling, and even in an addiction. I know addiction is happening right now, but there's a lot of people who are dependent now on alcohol as a result of what's happening. They don't know what to do with themselves, and they might, you know, we all have 2 sides, and this is just my personal belief and kind of clinical guide of how I run my practice. But we have 2 sides. We have this healthy side that is a side that is kind of gung-ho, like let's do something different, let's really take care of ourselves, and let's go for a run, or let's, you know, make change. And then the other side goes, I don't care, I just want to feel better, and I'm going to do whatever it is so I can feel better. And that side, regardless of health or not health, it's just like there's an arrogance there that can really take us down very quickly. And there's a very slippery slope when it comes to using substances or behaviors for, you know, that quick fix that can drown us. And when we start drowning and we're not asking for help, you know, the consequences of that can be devastating. And so I really speak to anybody who's in a position of feeling like they're floundering, like ask for help. And it's a plea, you know, because I want to see people do well through this, and we do the best we can. And so, yeah, I hope that means something to somebody out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, you know, further to that, that for those of us who aren't struggling, who are being able to thrive in this environment, because I too have been able to take advantage of this opportunity to become more creative, to refocus my efforts, and be able to gain some more self-satisfaction and improve my own quality of life despite having less money. But I think for those of us who are in that situation, if there's more that we could do to try and be available for when others reach out to us, because as you're asking for people to reach out, if they're struggling, they need to be able to know that there's someone they can reach out to. And so if there's something that the rest of us could be doing to make sure that we are there for people and that people know that we're there for people, that could be beneficial, because then we will be able to make ourselves available to be able to provide added value and to improve our own sense of purpose, as well as that value to other people. Mm-hmm. But then as well, I think it shows shows people who are struggling that they're not alone, and that there are people out there who are thinking of them and who are willing to be there for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are running in emergency groups. So emergency support groups is what we're calling them, and our staff are, myself included, are doing that for free. And we release the date of the next group, the date and time of the next group, depending on how many people we have sign up. And then I ask other staff to be there in the event we have higher numbers than a standard group. Now, a standard group is 8 to 10 people, you know, maybe you can get away with 12, but 10 is generally the max, because you want to give everybody an opportunity to say what they need to say and express their emotions and things like that. And super, super powerful and effective is what we're seeing in these groups, and we're seeing a lot of people wanting to return. And it's interesting though too, and I'd love to get your thoughts about this, but we do see a lot of people who sign up for this support and then don't show up. And I have my own thoughts around, you know, some people get cold feet, or they decide that they don't want it, or whatever it is, but that's been in the last few weeks, like that's been really common in our, you know, and then it's like we have 1/3 or 1/4 of the signups that actually show up to group. And so I've been trying to think of a creative way without, you know, punishing people at all, or you know, trying to hold them to a higher standard, to say, like, you know, if you're going to come to this group, we're going to hold your spot, please show up. And it's just been really challenging as a team to be able to offer this, and then it's just not, I'm not quite sure what's happening there. So I would love, it's kind of just a plug for those of you who do get cold feet, or whatever's happening for you. I do encourage you to let us know, because if you're letting us know what's going on, then we can find a different solution. You know, this group work isn't something that everybody likes, right? Sometimes we need something else, and we have lots and lots of ideas, and everybody that I'm talking to in these videos have lots and lots of ideas. So if you do sign up and you don't want to come, even last minute, you know, or after the fact, let us know, and we'll have a chat about different options, right? Like, the support is there. And sometimes we, you know, maybe we don't care about having the support because we're so depressed, and we just, like, you know, or we're drinking, or whatever we're doing. But just another invitation, like, if you can't show up, tell us what's going on.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I would just like to encourage people who perhaps are having second thoughts or cold feet to just try to push through it, and to take part in the experience. And because I am confident that you'll benefit from it, that you will find value in it, and that you'll come away feeling better, and perhaps having some tools now that you can use in the future when things aren't going well, that can help you cope with those things. So yeah, that would be my advice to people in that situation, is to just try and push through it and attend those sessions anyhow. Just try to get through those doubts, or whatever it is that might be holding you back, because I think you'll be able to benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kim, I really appreciate you taking the time today for us, as I said in the beginning. And I'm just wondering if that you have any kind of last words of guidance or thoughts about anything that you want to share with whoever's watching.
You know, the only thing I think I have left to say is, you know, just don't lose hope. Whatever your situation is, you know, even if you're financially fine, but you're having, you know, difficulties at home, or maybe you're not having difficulties at home, but you're not financially fine, or whatever your situation is, don't lose hope. This is a difficult time for a lot of us, if not most of us, for various reasons. And it can be easy to fall into this sense of hopelessness. And so I would encourage people to not lose hope, to try and find meaningful things to hold on to that will sustain your sense of hope, because I think that's really the thing that's going to bring us through, even if that means watching extra videos on Facebook of all the cool things that people are doing around the world to reach out to their neighbors or others in need. That might give you a sense of general hope, which might be all that you need to be able to persevere and continue on.
Yeah. Well, great advice. And I'm really thankful, as I've said before, for you being here. Yeah, and just wonderful to connect with you too, after so many years of not seeing you, and just kind of hearing through the grapevine or through Facebook, kind of what you're up to. And if you can, send my best to Mary also.
Sure, you bet. I'll be happy to do
Yeah,
that. I
good.
appreciate being able to talk to you again, and I thank you for reaching out to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this, because we're going to be doing, who knows how many, could be 100 videos, could be more than that. If there's any viewers out there who feel inclined to join the conversation, I would love that. Send out an email to info@strengthcounseling.ca, or you can go to the website and use the contact page, strengthcounseling.ca. And just let us know, because I'm open to hearing, what's going on for people and what their thoughts are. Now, Kim, are you open to hearing from people if our viewers want to speak to you directly?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so what is your, if you have a website you want to share, or
they could
Facebook?
They could just search my name on Google, Kim Siever, Siever, and there'll be plenty of places they go to contact me, and I'm available at any of those places. So,
well, that's wonderful. Well, Kim, I look forward to a signed copy of your books. And I'll, if you let me know the release date, I'll be the first to buy. And yeah, so reach out to Kim or reach out to me, and I can forward anything to Kim if you wish to talk to him or wish to share anything. Feedback is always welcomed. We just want to be a very inclusive organization here. And Kim, I appreciate your viewpoints and just your openness today.
Thanks, Amanda.
All right, you take care, and maybe we'll talk to you again.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, bye.
Bye.